In 1891, John Grable photographed the inside of the home of American Horse, an Oglala woman. The image reveals everyday life. Objects, use of space, and signs of community show how the home shaped family and gatherings, a place of work, care, and memory. A moment that keeps habits and bonds alive. Geronimo, known among the Apaches as Goyale, traveled the Old West as a symbol of resistance. Leading the Chiricahua, he alternated between attacks, escapes, and peace talks to preserve his people's autonomy. Caught between U.S. pressure and Mexican campaigns, he left behind a tactical legacy that carried across generations. Among the Yuma in Arizona, feelings took sound. Young men courted with the flute. It wasn't just ritual, but conversation and melody, an invitation and a promise. In 1885, Isaiah West Tabor photographed a focused musician, turning silence into affection that crosses time. If you're enjoying the content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We see a Dakota woman at a key moment in life, facing a buffalo hide. She leads work that feeds the village and preserves memory. The gesture is born from listening to the elders. Between scraping and stretching, the skin transforms, and the craft confirms the line that connects past and present, keeping history alive. Even in the face of setbacks, Crooked Hand became a symbol of bravery among the Pawnee. Respected by his people, he fought through battles and left a legacy that still echoes in collective memory. In George Bird Grinnell's records, he appears as the greatest warrior of his tribe, a title that time has confirmed and preserved. Known in English as Horseback, Taraquoip firmly led the Noconi group among the Comanches. In 1873, a lung hemorrhage pulled him from the front lines. Returning to camp, he traded war for silence and healing, and shifted leadership. Less fighting, more paths for his people's survival. In 1899, an image of Pirat of the Ute people captures an intimate moment. She cradles her baby in quiet arms. The gesture shows more than affection. It connects the group's knowledge that shaped nature into everyday tools, like willow cradleboards, a legacy carefully preserved through many generations and still alive in collective memory. In Lame Deer, Montana, photographer Julia Tuel captured a quiet story. Northern Cheyenne girls playing, deeply focused, creating narratives with deerskin dolls. Between laughter and precise gestures, daily community life emerges, where care, memory, and knowledge pass from hand to hand in an ancient rhythm. In 1860, Felix Ward was captured by the Apaches when loincloths and moccasins still defined the people's identity. 17 years later, on the Camp Verde Reservation in Arizona, the visual landscape had changed. White clothing was already part of daily life. In the photo, Ward, second from the right, embodies the transition, a portrait of shock and adaptation. In 1891, John Grable photographed a Brule Lakota camp near the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota. The line of Tippis on the plain reveals habits, alliances, and daily work. The record becomes a bridge, guiding today's eyes back to the roots, times, and decisions of that people at the end of the 19th century. John Grass is a key figure in Native American history. A Dakota Sioux leader, he guided his people through clashes and agreements, forging paths that still endure. His legacy blends bravery and dialogue and remains in collective memory and in conversations, often tense, between Native nations and the U.S. government. If you're enjoying the content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Geronimo, the Apache leader, turned fame into a stage. In a parade that brought together chiefs of many nations, he marched at the front, an image of strength and unity. The march passed before President Theodore Roosevelt and, more than a ceremony, marked the recognition of his journey and the Native presence in the country's history. Known as Jack Tendoy, Uriwichi guided the Shoshone at a turning point. On May 14, 1880, he joined the delegation that negotiated a decisive treaty, representing the Lemhi and Fort Hall agencies. With firm resolve, he led difficult talks and defended his people's interests before the authorities. In 1900, at the turn of the century, George Bird Grinnell, fascinated by Blackfoot culture, invited photographer Edward Curtis on a mission to record in images and accounts the life of that people. The meeting of research rigor and field experience created a collection meant to preserve memories during a time of rapid change. A Hidatsa hunter climbs a rock overlooking a vast valley. In his hand, he gently holds an eagle, a sign of spiritual bond and his people's memory. His steady gaze and the cliff's view lead the scene, where strength, protection, and belonging come together in one moment. There, the landscape responds. In the 1880s, the advance of the U.S. cavalry intensified clashes with native peoples in the Southwest. In this heat, Apache Kid emerged, hard to pin down. Among his own, he was called Haskai Bainentail, a name that foretold, brave and tall and will meet a mysterious end. His path was starting to take shape. A photo of a Sioux child opens a shared memory, a people who keep their traditions and their bond with the land alive. Under the names Dakota, Nakota, and Lakota, they unite nations that for centuries lived on the Great Plains, and in that journey, shaped paths, cultures, and memories of the vast North American land. In 1868, a Nez Perce delegation went to Washington, D.C., and one record stood out, the portrait of Chief Kalkalshuatash. Wearing traditional clothing, he stares into the camera and asserts his leadership. The portrait connects the capital to his people's roots and preserves, in one instant, a memory that crosses generations, echoing through time and history. In 1878, after serving as the governor's field secretary in the Bannock War, Major Lee Morehouse took over in 1889 as head of the Umatilla Reservation Agency in Oregon. From then on, he documented daily life and cultural practices in Umatilla County and the Columbia Basin, building a collection that preserves local memory. In 1908, Edward Curtis photographed a healing ceremony of the Arikara, the men of the night. From songs to gestures and pauses, the community made a shared request to the land, rain and sustenance to keep life going. By recording the ritual, Curtis preserved a moment where memory, belief, and need came together. If you're enjoying the content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. In 1859, James Dempsey Hutton captured a scene that opened the way for visual documentation of the Arapaho. In the photo, members of the tribe pose, and on the right appears Warshinun, key to identifying the group. The shot marks a beginning, one of the first records, a milestone in photography and ethnographic documentation. In full devotion, a man of the Crow Nation, the Apsaroki, took part in the sun dance. More than ritual, it was an intimate crossing, guided by faith and meaning. Each movement called for courage, each pause, firmness. As he advanced, body and spirit met with his people's living memory, and there he renewed ancient commitments. Among the Apaches, the knowledge of basketry passed from mother to daughter, preserving rites and techniques. In 1903, Edward Curtis recorded an artisan at work. In her careful gestures, the group's memory intertwined and confirmed their identity, a tradition that still pulses in villages and beyond, in every basket, to this day. In 1873, Timothy O'Sullivan recorded, near Old Fort Defiance in New Mexico, a scene that leads us into Navajo daily life. In the image, gestures, tools, and the landscape's outline connect, opening a window to a moment when the community reaffirmed culture and its bond with the land, source of sustenance and memory. In 1908, in Tologa, Oklahoma, photographer Dedrick portrayed Hunting Horse, a Kiowa leader, alongside his daughters. The portrait starts in the home and reaches into the memory of a people, a man whose life spanned a century, living to 107 years. Before the camera, he stitched together past and future, leaving stories that still echo. In northeastern Arizona, a Hopi scene. A woman kneels, calmly combing a young girl's hair into spirals. The gesture, handed down by elders, marked the passage into marriage. Between hands and silence, the village welcomed the new cycle. On the edge of the desert, the ancestral bond was reaffirmed. We've reached the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. See you next time.